Hello there everyone, welcome to Shadowman Stories. I am your storyteller and I'm here to guide you tonight. I know many of you use these videos to drift off to sleep, so before we begin, take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. I'm always curious, where are you watching from and what time is it in your part of the world? Now, find your cozy spot and relax. My name is Marcus Caldwell. I'm a park ranger at Algonquin National Forest in Minnesota. This morning started like any other winter patrol, but I should have known better. I should have felt it coming. Dawn broke over the endless snow-covered pines, their branches heavy with fresh powder. It was like walking through a white cathedral, silent and beautiful. The only sounds were my snowshoes crunching through the pristine snow and my own heavy breathing. Each breath formed little clouds. In the freezing air, the temperature gauge on my watch read -20 degrees Fahrenheit, cold enough to freeze spit before it hits the ground. As I trudged along my usual route, a flash of red caught my eye. A cardinal, bright as blood against all the white, flitted between the trees. I couldn't help but smile, first time in weeks. Something so small and colorful, somehow surviving out here in this harsh winter. It reminded me that life goes on, even in the coldest places. The frozen rainy river stretched out beside my path, like a ribbon of silver. The ice was so clear, I could see trout suspended beneath it, floating motionless in the frigid water, as if time itself had stopped. I've been walking these woods for 3 years now, but sometimes the beauty of this place still takes my breath away. I paused for a moment, just to take it all in. Golden sunlight filtered through the frost-covered branches, making the snow sparkle like a million tiny diamonds. For a brief moment, I felt at peace. The war seemed far away. The nightmares seemed distant. Then something changed. The cardinal eye was still watching it, dance from branch to branch, suddenly vanished mid-flight. 1 second it was there, the next, gone, like something had snatched it from the air. A few red feathers drifted slowly down to the snow, the only evidence it had ever existed. The forest fell into a silence so complete, it hurt my ears. No wind, no creaking branches, not even the distant howl of wolves that usually echoes through these woods. Just nothing. My radio crackled with static, making me jump. The harsh electronic noise cut through the quiet before dying completely. No signal out here. I was over 50 miles from the nearest town. I was alone. I looked up and felt my stomach drop. Dark clouds were gathering overhead, but not like any storm clouds I'd ever seen. They moved too fast, swirling together like smoke, turning the bright morning into an eerie twilight in minutes. This wasn't natural. In all my years in these woods, I'd never seen weather change this quickly. I zipped my parka up higher, but it didn't help. I noticed my breath was visible even inside my jacket, as if the temperature had plummeted another 20 degrees in just moments. The cold had a weight to it now, pressing against me from all sides. It felt hungry. Something was wrong in my forest, very wrong. And I was about to find out just how wrong things could get. I guess you should know a bit about me. I didn't always live in these woods. 3 years ago, I was someone else, a husband, a soldier, a man who thought he knew what fear was. The war in Korea changed me. My face looks older than my 34 years, with lines that weren't there before I shipped out. People say I have this distant look in my eyes now. My buddies call it the 1,000-yard stare. It means you've seen too much things no one should see. I still remember the frozen mountains of Chosin. The screams of my squad as Chinese soldiers surrounded us, the bodies frozen stiff in the snow. Sometimes, in my dreams, I'm still there. I keep a Purple Heart medal in my pocket. It's for the shrapnel still stuck near my spine. But the real weight I carry is for the 19 men from my unit who never made it home. Their faces visit me at night. After I got back, things fell apart fast. Sarah, my wife, she tried her best. But how do you live with a man who wakes up screaming, who grabs you in the middle of the night, thinking you're the enemy? The last straw was the family barbecue. My brother Pat came up behind me, put his hand on my shoulder. Next thing I knew, I had him pinned to the ground, my fist pulled back. I thought he was a North Korean soldier. Sarah left a week later. Can't say I blame her. My hands started shaking after that, not just from the memories. The bourbon helped quiet the voices, the dead men who whispered to me at night. But I knew I needed something else, something real. So I took this ranger job, far away from people I could hurt. I keep Sarah's photo tucked inside my hat, her smile from happier days. Sometimes I take it out and wonder what could have been. These woods became my new home. 200 square miles of forest under my watch. I've walked every trail, mapped every clearing, memorized every ridge and valley. When you've got nothing but time and ghosts for company, you get to know a place pretty well. This morning, I had a job to do. The Johnson family from Duluth went missing 5 days ago. Mum, Dad, 2 kids, last seen near the old Blackwater logging camp. The report was folded in my jacket pocket, getting damp from the snow. Find the Johnsons, bring them home. Simple enough. My gut told me something was wrong though. Real wrong. Not just lost hikers. Wrong. But I've never been one to back down. In Korea, that stubborn streak saved what was left of my unit. Here in these woods, well, I was about to find out if it would save me or doom me. I touched the silver cross hanging around my neck. My grandfather's. It stopped a Chinese bullet once. Saved my life. I'm not a religious man. Not anymore. But I found myself squeezing that cross as the forest grew darker around me. I didn't know it then, but I was going to need more than luck or skill to survive what was waiting for me in those woods. Much more. I followed the old forest road that leads to Blackwater logging camp. The snow was getting deeper, almost to my knees in some spots. Then I saw it through the trees, a dark blue Buick, the Johnson family's car. Something was off, right away. The car doors were hanging open, letting snow pile up on the seats. I touched the hood and jerked my hand back in surprise. It was warm. The engine was still warm, like it had been running recently, but that didn't make sense. The Johnsons had been missing for 5 days. "Hello," I called out. "Anyone here?" "Park ranger." My voice sounded small in the vast silence of the forest. No one answered. Their luggage was scattered all around the car like they'd left in a hurry. I knelt down to check a half-open suitcase. Summer clothes, t-shirts, shorts, sandals, winter coats, no gloves, no boots. Why would they leave their car without proper winter gear? The temperature out here would kill them in hours. I stood up, and that's when I noticed the trees. Someone or something had carved strange marks into the birch trees surrounding the car. There weren't any Native American symbols I recognized, and I'd studied those. These looked older, cruder somehow. The cuts were fresh, oozing black sap. That looked too dark, too thick, almost like blood. A smell hit me then so bad I had to cover my nose with my scarf. Rotting meat, but with something else mixed in. Something sweet and metallic, like maple syrup poured over old pennies. My stomach turned. I knelt down to examine tracks in the snow. Wolf prints circled the car, big ones, but as I followed them, something impossible happened. The wolf prints gradually changed, stretching and morphing until they became human footprints. Then, a few yards later, they changed back to wolf prints again. I'd been tracking animals for 30 years, and I'd never seen anything like it. I pulled out my compass to get my bearings. The needle spun wildly, never settling on north. I tapped it, shook it, but it just kept spinning like crazy. It was as if some massive magnet was messing with it from underground. "Daddy." I spun around, my hand going to my pistol. It was a child's voice, a little girl, coming from the trees beyond the car. "Hello, is that Lizzie Johnson? It's Ranger Caldwell. I'm here to help you." No answer. I moved toward where I thought the voice had come from. There was nothing there except a single bloody handprint on a pine trunk, small, like a child's. My heart was pounding now. The temperature dropped suddenly. I could feel it like stepping into a freezer. My breath came out in thick white clouds, and when I spat, it froze before hitting the ground. This was beyond natural cold. The thermometer, on my watch, read -35 degrees Fahrenheit, and dropping fast. Looking around, I noticed something else strange. Every tree within about 50 feet had been stripped of bark at exactly the same height, about 7 feet up. Too high for a bear, too neat for any animal I knew. The exposed wood underneath looked gnawed on. I turned to head back to the car, planning to radio for backup if I could get a signal. That's when I realized my own tracks were disappearing. The snow was filling them in, erasing my path. But there was no wind, no fresh snowfall. The snow was moving on its own, like it was alive. I felt eyes on me then, watching from somewhere in the darkening forest. My hand went to my grandfather's. Cross again, squeezing it tight. Whatever was out there, it wasn't human. And it wasn't just watching, it was hunting. Movement caught my eye between the distant trees. Something tall and thin, too tall to be human. It moved in a way that made my skin crawl smooth and flowing, like water or smoke, not like any animal or person I'd ever seen. I squinted, trying to get a better look through the twilight darkness that had fallen over the forest. The figure stepped partially into a clearing, and I felt the blood drain from my face. Marcus, why didn't you save us? That voice. I knew that voice. Staff Sergeant Riley from my unit in Korea, Boston accent and all. But Riley died in my arms on a frozen mountain 3 years ago, thousands of miles away. The figure wore Riley's face like a mask, but everything else was wrong. Its eyes glowed with a pale blue light, like distant campfires in the snow. When it breathed, frozen crystals came out that clinked together, like tiny bells when they fell. It was impossibly tall, at least 12 feet, and skinny as a skeleton. Its skin was grey and stretched tight over bones that stuck out at odd angles. The hands ended in black claws that left deep scratches in the tree trunks it passed. Its mouth was the worst part. Yellowed fangs stuck out from lips that were pulled back in a permanent hungry grin. I'd never seen anything like it, but the old-timers who lived up here had told stories. The Wendigo, a spirit of winter, hunger, and madness. I pulled out my service pistol with shaking hands and fired twice. The bullets passed right through it like it was made of fog. Then it solidified again and swiped at a tree between us. Its claws cut through the thick trunk like it was paper. "Please help us, Ranger." This time it spoke with a woman's voice, Mrs. Johnson's voice, I guessed, though I'd never met her. "We're so cold. The children are hungry." More voices joined in, a man, a little boy, a little girl. The Johnson family, all speaking from the creature's grinning mouth, while its face never changed. "Where are they?" I shouted, backing away. Slowly. "What did you do to them?" The thing didn't answer. It just watched me with those burning blue eyes. When I took a step back, it took a step forward, always keeping the same distance between us, playing with me. I noticed it didn't leave tracks in the snow. It floated just above the surface, like it weighed nothing at all. The air around it was so cold that tree branches cracked and split as it passed. "Sarah misses you, Marcus," it said suddenly, using my wife's voice perfectly. "She's waiting for you to come home." "You're not real," I said, still backing away. "You're not them." "But I am hungry," it whispered, now in a voice that sounded like many voices speaking together, so very hungry. I could feel it now, a hunger coming off the creature in waves, not just for food, but for something else, something deeper. It was a hunger that could never be filled, a cold that could never be warmed. Behind the faces it wore, I sensed something ancient and patient watching me. Something that had hunted in these woods long before humans came, and would hunt long after we were gone. It had all the time in the world. It knew I couldn't outrun it. It knew I couldn't fight it. And worst of all, it knew exactly what I feared most. The forest had gone completely dark now. The only light came from the creature's eyes and the snow, reflecting their glow. I kept backing away, my mind racing. The old logging camp was about a mile behind me. If I could reach it, maybe I could find some kind of shelter, some way to fight back. I turned and ran. I ran faster than I ever had before. Each breath felt like swallowing broken glass. The air was so cold. My lungs burned. My legs screamed. But fear pushed me forward. Behind me, the Wendigo followed. Sometimes I'd glance back and see it running on all fours like a wolf. Other times it moved upright like a man. It never seemed to hurry, but it was always getting closer. The old Blackwater logging camp appeared ahead through the trees. Just a few abandoned buildings, falling apart after years of harsh winters. The main cabin was the largest, where the foreman used to live. I aimed for that, praying the door wasn't frozen shut. It wasn't. I burst inside, slammed the door, and pushed a heavy wooden table against it. For what good that would do. The cabin was a single room with boarded windows and old furniture covered in dust. Logging equipment hung on the walls. A rusty wood stove sat cold in the corner. I had maybe 2 minutes before the thing caught up. My mind raced. Bullets didn't work. Running didn't work. What kills a Wendigo? The old stories never said. Then I spotted it, a gas can beside the wood stove, probably for the generator they used to power the lights. I shook it, still half full. An idea formed, not a good one, but the only one I had. I unscrewed the cap and started splashing gasoline around the cabin, on the floors, the walls, the furniture. I'd burn this place down with both of us inside if I had to. Better than becoming like that thing out there. I was just reaching for my matches when the temperature dropped suddenly. Frost spread across the inside walls like living things. The door didn't burst open. The Wendigo simply passed through it like a ghost, bringing that terrible cold with it. The gasoline on the floor turned to slush. When I struck a match, it fizzled out instantly. The creature's ice powers had made fire impossible. Backed into a corner, I pulled out my grandfather's silver cross. In the stories, silver sometimes worked against monsters, but as I held it up, my hand shook. My faith had died in Korea. Alongside my friends, what good was a symbol if you didn't believe? You couldn't save your marriage, the thing said, now using Sarah's voice. You couldn't save your squad. You couldn't even save yourself. What makes you think you can save anyone now? It was right. I had failed everyone who ever counted on me, failed the Johnsons too. Whatever happened to them was probably happening to me next. The Wendigo came closer, its blue eyes burning into mine. I could see myself reflected in them, small, afraid, alone. But something sparked inside me then, a stubborn streak that had kept me alive in Korea when everyone else died. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to cry. Go to hell, I spat at the creature's face. My spit froze midair, falling to the floor with a tiny glass-like shatter. The Wendigo reached out one long, bony hand and touched my chest, right over my heart. The cold was unimaginable. I felt ice crystals forming in my blood, spreading through my body. My last thought was of Sarah's smile on our wedding day. The last time I was truly happy. My name is James Patterson Jimmy, to most folks around these parts. I've been a park ranger in the Ouachita National Forest for nearly 15 years now, though sometimes it feels like I've been walking these swamps my whole life. Tonight, the Arkansas Delta stretches out before me like an endless painting, the sunset turning the sky blood orange above the cypress trees. Those trees make strange shapes against the sky, their branches draped with Spanish moss that hangs down like old ghosts' clothing. The cicadas are screaming tonight. That's what my grandpa used to call it, screaming, not buzzing. They rise and fall like sirens, while the bullfrogs add their deep notes from the muddy water. It's the music of the swamp, a song I've heard my whole life. My old truck bounces hard on this dirt road, throwing up clouds of red dust that stick to everything. I've got the windows down despite the heat, because the AC gave up years ago. That fine Arkansas earth settles on my skin, my uniform, my dashboard marking everything as belonging to this land. Lord, it's hot. The air is so thick you could almost cut it with a knife. Sweat beads up on my forehead before it can even drip down, leaving little salt crystals on my skin. At 42, my face has seen better days, weathered by sun and worry in equal measure. Up ahead, I spot a great blue heron standing in the shallow water. Beautiful creature, still as a statue while it fishes. Suddenly, the heron takes off in a panic, wings beating frantically against the humid air. Something spooked it good. Then I notice the cicadas have stopped. Just like that silence. Well, not complete silence. There's something moving in the water, something big enough to make those soft plopping sounds I can hear through my open window. My CB radio hisses with static. I reach over and adjust the dial, but there's nothing but dead air with occasional whispers I can't make out. Weird. Usually, the local channels are alive with chatter, especially around sunset when the fishing boats are heading in. Dark clouds are building up over the trees, though the weather report this morning promised clear skies. I can feel the air pressure dropping, that heavy feeling before a big storm breaks. I pull over when I spot something strange and massive. Oak tree with fresh claw marks gouged deep into the bark. They're high up, maybe 9 feet off the ground. Whatever made these marks was big, real big. I touch the gouges with my fingers, and they come away with tufts of coarse, reddish-brown hair caught in the splintered wood. Something's wrong in my forest tonight. I can feel it in my bones, the same way I used to feel danger coming in the jungles of Vietnam, and my instincts about danger haven't been wrong yet. Most folks around here don't know much about my past, and that's how I like it. Before I was Ranger Patterson, I was Sergeant Patterson, seeing things in the Mekong Delta that still wake me up at night. Vietnam taught me that the scariest monsters aren't the ones in fairy tales, they're the ones with human faces. I was on my second tour when I got the news about Maria. Car accident on a rainy night, they said. By the time I made it home, my little girl Rebecca was living with my sister Carol. calling me Uncle Jimmy because she barely remembered her daddy. That cut deeper than any jungle knife ever could. There's a Silver Star medal in my dresser drawer, tarnished black now. I don't polish it anymore. What's the point? Medals don't keep you warm at night or fill the empty chairs at your dinner table. Rebecca is 16 now, all dark eyes and attitude. She barely talks to me most days. Can't blame her, really. Hard to love a father who was just a photo on the wall for most of your life. When she does speak, her words are sharp with teenage anger and real hurt mixed together. I keep my service pistol loaded in my bedside drawer. Not because I'm worried about burglars. We hardly lock our doors out here. It's for the nights when the memories get too loud, when I can still hear Charlie moving through the underbrush. I've never told anyone about those nights, not even the VA counselor they made me see when I first came home. This swampland is the one place I've always felt at peace. My grandpa brought me hunting here when I was just a boy. He taught me every trail, every hidden pond, every sound the forest makes. Back then, the world made sense in a way it hasn't since. The trouble started 3 weeks ago with the Morrisons' cattle. 3 of them torn apart, not eaten, just killed and left in a triangle shape. Then the Wilsons lost 6 pigs, ripped to pieces. Even old Mrs. Jenkins found her chicken coop splattered with blood. Every single bird missing its head cut clean, like with a surgeon's knife. I should have called the state police after the second incident. That's what Sheriff Daniels suggested, but my damn pride got in the way. This is my forest. My community. Whatever sick person is doing this, I should be the one to catch them. The divorce papers from Carol are still sitting on my kitchen table, unsigned. After Maria died, she took Rebecca in, raised her like her own. Now she wants full custody. Says Rebecca needs stability and a mother's guidance. The worst part is, she might be right. What kind of home have I given my daughter? A quiet house with a broken man who jumps at shadows. My hand moves to my pocket, feeling for Grandpa's lucky rabbit's foot. The fur is worn smooth from 3 generations of Patterson men rubbing it in times of trouble. Patterson luck, though, seems to have run dry long before it got to me. As I drive deeper into the forest, watching those storm clouds gather, I can't shake the feeling that whatever left those claw marks isn't just some backwoods psycho killing livestock for kicks. There's something else out there tonight. Something that doesn't belong in any world I understand. And it's waiting for me. I pull up to the Morrison Ranch just before sundown. What I see makes my stomach turn. The place looks like something from a horror movie. 3 of their Black Angus cattle are torn to pieces. The weird part is how they're arranged in a perfect triangle, like someone was making some kind of sick symbol. Jesus Christ, I whisper, climbing out of my truck. The smell hits me, first blood and death, but something else too. Something wild and musky, like a wet dog that's been rolling in something rotten. I've smelled dead animals before, but this is different. Wrong. I kneel beside the nearest cow. Its eyes are gone, removed so cleanly it had to be done with a knife. The empty sockets seem to stare at me, asking why I didn't stop this. Around the bodies are footprints, big ones. At first I think they might be from boots, but no boot I've ever seen is 18 inches long, and no boot has claw marks extending past the toes. I place my hand next to one print for scale. My hand looks tiny beside it. The fence around Morrison's pasture is torn apart, not cut with wire cutters like a normal thief would do, but snapped. At the base, the metal posts are twisted into spirals like they were made of soft clay instead of hard steel. Whatever did this was strong, impossibly strong. I whistle for Rex, my tracking dog. He's a good boy, trained to follow any scent. But today, he won't budge from the truck. He's pressed himself against the floorboard, whimpering like a puppy. His tail is tucked tight between his legs. Come on, Rex, I call, patting my leg. We've got work to do. Rex just whines louder. In all our years together, I've never seen him act like this. He's tracked armed poachers without fear, but something here has him terrified. As the sun dips lower, I hear strange howls from the deep swamp. I've lived in these woods my whole life. I know what wolves sound like. I know what coyotes sound like. This is neither. It's deeper, more guttural, almost ... human. The sound makes the hair on my neck stand straight up. I follow the tracks with my flashlight. They lead straight toward the old Hendricks Placer homestead abandoned. Since the 1930s, the story goes that the whole family disappeared during the Depression. 7 people gone overnight, no bodies ever found. As a kid, We used to dare each other to spend the night there. Nobody ever did. The trail is easy to follow. Whatever made these tracks wasn't trying to hide. Tree branches are broken high above my head, 9 feet up at least. Like something tall walked through here, pushing the forest aside like it was nothing. I pull out my compass to confirm my bearings. The needle swings wildly before pointing directly at the Hendricks place. I tap the glass, but the needle won't move. It's like there's a giant magnet pulling it toward the abandoned homestead. The sun is gone now. Darkness settles over the swamp like a heavy blanket. I should go back, call for backup, wait until morning. That would be the smart thing to do. Instead, I click on my flashlight and follow the tracks deeper into the forest. Whatever is killing these animals needs to be stopped. And if it's some crazy person living out here, they need to answer for what they've done. But with every step I take, I'm less convinced this is the work of any human. The feeling of being watched grows stronger. Something is out there in the darkness, watching me get closer, and I think it's smiling. The old Hendricks place sits in a clearing ahead, moonlight making the broken windows look like empty eyes. I pause at the edge of the trees, listening. The night has gone completely silent. No frogs, no insects, nothing. It's like the whole swamp is holding its breath. That's when I see it. It comes from between a stand of cypress trees, moving with a strange grace that doesn't match its massive size. At first, I think it's a bear, but bears don't stand upright like that. Bears don't have shoulders that broad, or arms that hang almost to the ground, 9 feet tall at least, covered in thick, reddish-brown fur. In the moonlight, I can make out its face, not quite ape, not quite human, but a nightmare mix of both. Its dark eyes catch the light of my flashlight and seem to glow from within. Those eyes hold something that makes my blood run cold. Intelligence. This thing is thinking, watching, planning. My hands shake as I raise my rifle. I've hunted all my life, faced armed men in Vietnam, but nothing prepared me for this. The creature's massive hands are almost human-like, with opposable thumbs and what look like fingernails sharpened to points. It moves toward me without making a sound. How can something that big it must weigh 800 pounds move so quietly? Its feet find dry spots in the swampy ground like it knows every inch of this place. I aim and fire. The shot echoes through the trees. I know I hit at time, a good shot. Always have been, but it doesn't even flinch. I fire again and again. The bullets hit. I can see the fur ripple from the impact, but the creature acts like they're nothing more than mosquito bites. That's when it roars. The sound hits me like a physical force, making my chest vibrate. It's like a freight train mixed with an animal's scream, so loud it shakes the leaves on the trees. I stumble backward, nearly dropping my rifle. The creature picks up a log of fallen tree limb, as thick as my thigh, and throws it at me with casual strength. The makeshift spear whistles past my head and smashes into an oak tree behind me, exploding into splinters. I turn to run, but something stops me. A presence in my mind, like cold fingers sifting through my thoughts. I can't move, can't speak, can't even scream. The creature's eyes are glowing brighter now, and somehow I know it's inside my head, looking through my memories like someone flipping through a photo album. It sees everything: my home, my job, Vietnam, Maria's funeral, and worst of all, Rebecca. My daughter's face floats in my mind, clear as day. I feel the creature's interest sharpen. Its lips pull back in what might be a smile, showing teeth, too large, too sharp. Then it shows me something, a vision forced into my brain. Rebecca, alone in our house, sitting at her desk with her headphones on, unaware that anything is wrong, unaware that something is coming for her. The mental connection breaks. Suddenly, I gasp, falling to my knees in the mud. The creature makes a sound, not a roar this time, but a series of grunts and clicks that somehow sounds like laughter. It turns and moves back into the trees, not running away, just letting me go. I don't waste the chance. I sprint back toward my truck, sliding in the mud, branches slapping my face. The whole time, I feel it watching me, following at its own pace. Sometimes I catch glimpses of it between the trees there, then gone, then there again, always closer than before. I reach my truck and fumble with the keys, my hands shaking so badly I can barely get them in the ignition. As I pull away, my headlights sweep across the road ahead, and for just a second, the creature is there, standing in the middle of the path. It raises one massive hand, not in threat but almost like a wave, a promise. I'll be seeing you soon. In my rearview mirror, it vanishes into the darkness. But in my head, I can still hear its laughter, like a broken record, playing the same horrible joke over and over. And I know where it's going. I drive faster than I ever have, tires skidding on the gravel roads. My knuckles are white on the steering wheel. Only one thought pounds in my head. Rebecca is alone at home. Please be okay. Please be okay, I whisper, like a prayer. I try the radio again, hoping to reach Sheriff Daniels, but there's nothing but static. My cell phone shows no signal, not unusual out here in the backwoods. But tonight, it feels like the whole world is cutting me off, leaving me alone with whatever that thing is. In my rearview mirror, I catch flashes of movement. Sometimes it's clear as day, that massive shape running through the trees alongside the road, keeping pace with my truck easily. Sometimes it vanishes completely, only to appear closer, always closer, and the whole time I can feel its presence in my mind, like an echo. Not words exactly, but feelings, amusement, hunger, anticipation. It's playing with me. I skid into my driveway, gravel spraying. The house is dark except for Rebecca's bedroom light upstairs. I grab my rifle and extra ammunition from the gun rack, then run to the front door. "Rebecca," I shout, bursting inside. "Rebecca, answer me." No response. I take the stairs 2 at a time, heart hammering in my chest. "Dad." Her voice comes from the bathroom. "What's wrong? You're freaking me out." Her bathroom door opens and there she stands, toothbrush in hand, looking annoyed and confused. Relief hits me so hard I almost fall to my knees. "We need to go now." I grab her arm. "What? Why?" "Dad, you're hurting me." There's no time to explain. "We need to." A tremendous crash from downstairs cuts me off. The sound of splintering wood, of something heavy breaking through our front door like it was made of paper. Rebecca's eyes go wide. "What was that?" I push her back into the bathroom. "Lock the door. Don't come out, no matter what you hear." "Dad, do it." She slams the door. I hear the lock click. Not that it would help against what's coming. I move to the top of the stairs, rifle raised. I remember Father Mackenzie, the old priest who blessed some silver bullets for Henderson after his cattle were mutilated last year. Henderson thought it was werewolves. I thought he was crazy. The bullets are in my pocket. Now I loaded them in the truck, feeling foolish but desperate. The living room is dark. Something moves in the shadows, something huge. It's inside my house now. "You stay away from my daughter," I say, my voice steadier than I feel. The creature steps into the dim light coming from the kitchen. It looks even bigger indoors, its shoulders nearly touching both walls of our narrow hallway. Those intelligent eyes fix on me, and again I feel its presence in my mind. Images flood my brain, ancient forests, other creatures like it, memories that aren't mine. It's showing me its history, its kind. They've been here long before us, watching from the shadows as humans spread across their lands. I fight against the mental invasion, focusing on one thought, protecting Rebecca. The creature snarls, angry that I'm resisting. It takes a step toward the stairs. I fire. The silver bullet hits it in the shoulder. For the first time, it reacts to being shot, a howl of pain and surprise. Black blood oozes from the wound. It charges up the stairs, moving faster than anything that size should be able to move. I fire again and again, each silver bullet slowing it but not stopping it. It reaches me, swinging one massive arm. I duck, but not fast enough. The blow catches my side, sending me crashing into the wall. Pain explodes in my ribs. The rifle flies from my hands, clattering down the stairs. The beast looms over me, raising those clawed hands for a killing blow. "Dad!" Rebecca screams from behind the bathroom door. The sound of her voice gives me strength. I roll away from the creature's swing, its claws gouging deep into the wooden floor where I had been. I scramble backward, reaching for my service pistol. The bathroom door flies open. Rebecca stands there, eyes wide with terror. "No, stay back," I yell. The creature turns toward her, interest shifting from me to my daughter. In that moment, with Rebecca in danger, something breaks loose inside me, all the rage and fear I've carried since Vietnam, since Maria died, since I became a hollow shell of a father. I pull my pistol and fire my last silver bullet directly into the creature's left eye. The effect is immediate and terrible. The beast roars in agony, a sound so loud it shakes picture frames from the walls. It claws at its face, black blood pouring between its fingers. I grab Rebecca and pull her behind me. "Run!" To the truck. We stumble down the stairs as the creature thrashes in blind pain, destroying everything it touches. The living room furniture splinters under its rage. Windows shatter. The whole house seems to groan under the assault. Rebecca and I make it outside, running for the truck. Behind us, the creature smashes through the front door, its injured eye, a ruined socket weeping black fluid. It stands in my yard, head tilted toward the sky, and lets out a final roar that echoes across the swamp. Then it fixes its remaining eye on Rebecca. One last vision floods my mind, my daughter, older, running through endless forests, always looking over her shoulder. Never safe, never free. The creature's promise. Then it turns and lumbers toward the tree line, disappearing into the darkness of the swamp. We leave that night, pack what we can into the truck and drive north, away from Arkansas, away from the creature, away from the life we knew. I tell the sheriff a story about a bear attack, knowing he'd never believe the truth. But it doesn't matter where we go. Rebecca still wakes up screaming some nights, telling me about red eyes watching her from the darkness. And sometimes, when I'm driving alone on empty highways, I catch a glimpse of something large moving in the trees alongside the road, keeping pace, watching, waiting. Some hunts never end, some terrors never fade. And somewhere in the deep swamps of Arkansas, it's still out there, waiting for the Pattersons to come home. My name is Catherine Morrison, but everyone calls me Kate. I've been a park ranger in the Pine Barrens of New Jersey for almost 3 years now. Before that, I was an EMT, but that's a story for another time. Right now, I need to tell you about what happened last summer, because I don't think I'll be able to keep it to myself much longer. The Pine Barrens is a special place. Imagine millions of pine trees stretching as far as you can see, like a big green ocean. When the wind blows, the trees whisper to each other. Sometimes, I swear they're trying to tell me something too. But day started like any other. I was driving my Jeep down one of those sandy roads that wind through the forest. Dust clouds followed behind me, hanging in the air like little ghosts. The air smelled sweeter mix of pine sap and the water from the cranberry bogs that dot the area. Those bogs are beautiful, especially in the afternoon when the sun hits them just right. The water turns golden, with only the occasional turtle or muskrat making ripples across the surface. I remember stopping to watch a red-tailed hawk circling overhead. Its cry echoed through the trees, a wild, free sound that always makes me smile. But then something strange happened. The hawk suddenly dove toward the trees, disappearing with a shriek that didn't sound normal. It sounded scared. Then everything got quiet, really quiet. Even the mosquito switcher, always buzzing around in the summer heat, seemed to freeze in mid-air. It was like the whole forest was holding its breath. My radio started to act up, crackling with static and weird voices. I couldn't make out most of it, but what I could hear sounded like old-timey English, like something from a history book. I tried to adjust the frequency, but it didn't help. The sky changed so fast it made my stomach drop. 1 minute it was clear blue, and the next, dark storm clouds were rolling in from nowhere. The bright summer day turned dark and wrong, like the sun had given up and gone home early. I decided to check out an area where we'd had some strange reports. As I walked, I spotted something poking out from the pine needles on the ground, an old foundation made of stone, probably from a colonial-era house. The stones were black, like they'd been burned in a fire long ago. What really caught my eye were the symbols carved into the granite. They weren't just regular wear and tear. Someone had put those there on purpose. I knelt down to get a better look, and that's when I felt a chill that had nothing to do with the weather. Something was watching me. I didn't know what yet, but I was about to find out just how real the legends of the Jersey Devil really were. I guess I should tell you a bit about myself, since we'll be together for this story. Like I said, I'm Kate Morrison. I'm 31 years old, and being a park ranger wasn't my first job. For 6 years, I was an EMT. That's someone who rides in ambulances and helps people who are hurt or sick before they get to the hospital. I loved that job. Helping people on their worst days made me feel like I was doing something that mattered. But 3 years ago, everything changed. We were trying to get a hurt little boy named Tommy Brennan to the hospital. He was only 8 years old. We called for a helicopter to take him because he needed help fast, and the roads were blocked. From a big storm, I still see it in my dreams, the helicopter trying to land in the bad weather, the sound of metal breaking apart, the spinning. I was on the ground, holding Tommy's hand, telling him everything would be okay. But the helicopter crashed, and no one else could come because of the storm. Tommy died that night, right in my arms. I couldn't save him. After that, I couldn't be around helicopters anymore. Even the sound made my hands shake. Blood is a pretty big problem when you're an EMT. I'd freeze up, remembering Tommy's face. So I left that job and became a park ranger. I thought being alone in the woods would help me heal. Some days are better than others. I still wake up screaming, sometimes, which is why my fiancé Michael left. He gave back the ring, said he couldn't handle my nightmares 3 nights a week. Can't really blame him. I never go anywhere without my medical bag. Old habits, I guess. It's packed with everything I might need: bandages, medicines, tools for snake bites or heart attacks. I pray I never have to use it, but I couldn't live with myself if someone needed help and I wasn't ready. These woods are like an old friend to me. I grew up exploring them with my dad, back when monsters were just I know every trail, every bog, every old road. Lately though, strange things have been happening. Pets going missing from nearby homes. Farm animals found dead in weird ways. Even the wild animals seem to be leaving the area, which isn't normal. The reports have been piling up on my desk. As I stood there by that old stone foundation, I realized I was probably looking at another piece of the puzzle. Something was happening in my forest, and I needed to figure out what. I touched the silver locket around my neck, the one with Tommy's picture inside. It's my reminder that I can't let anyone else down, not on my watch. My grandfather's revolver felt heavy on my hip. He carried it through World War II, at Normandy. He taught me how to use it when I was a teenager, though I've only ever fired it at paper targets. As the weird storm clouds gathered overhead, I had a feeling I might need to use it for real very soon. The next morning, I got a call from the Kowalski farm. Mrs. Kowalski was in tears, saying something had happened to her chickens. I drove out there right away. The Kowalski place is a small farm on the edge of the Pine Barrens. They've got chickens, a few cows, and a big vegetable garden. Nice, normal people who've never caused any trouble. When I pulled up to their chicken coop, I knew right away something was very wrong. The chickens, 12 of them, were laid out in a perfect circle in the yard. Not scattered like a wild animal had attacked them. A perfect circle, like someone had placed them that way on purpose. I knelt down to look closer, and my stomach turned. Each chicken's neck was twisted in exactly the same way. They were all dried up, like mummies, with no blood left in them at all. But there were no cuts, no bite marks nowhere for the blood to have gone. I found them like this when I came to collect eggs. Mrs. Kowalski said, her voice shaking. What kind of animal does something like this? That was the question, wasn't it? Because around the chicken coop were footprints I'd never seen before. They looked like hoof prints, like from a goat or a deer, but they were huge, bigger than my hand. And there was something else mixed in with them marks, in the dirt, that looked like something with wings had taken off and landed. The smell was the worst part. Have you ever smelled rotten eggs? Mix that with the smell of hair burning and something else I can't even describe. I had to breathe through my mouth to keep from gagging. "Where's your bull, Mrs. Kowalski?" I asked, noticing the empty pen where their prize bull usually stayed. She pointed to the far field. "He's alive, but something scared him bad. He won't come near the barn now." I walked out to the pasture and saw the bull standing alone, as far from the buildings as he could get. His eyes were rolled back, showing the whites, and he was shaking all over. When I tried to approach, he backed away, making a sound I've never heard a cow make before, like he was trying to scream but couldn't. On my way back to the jeep, Mrs. Kowalski grabbed my arm. "The lights are back too," she whispered. "Over the cranberry bog. Every night at exactly 3:17 in the morning. Blue-green lights dancing over the water." I'd heard about these lights from other people too. Always the same time, 3:17 a.m. Always the same blue-green color. I decided to check out the old colonial ruins again. This time, I brought my metal detectors. Sometimes people dump trash in the woods, and I thought maybe there was something there causing the radio interference. But when I turned on the detector near the foundation, it went crazy. The needle spun wildly back and forth, like there was a massive amount of metal under the ground. But this area had been scanned before, and nothing like that had ever been found. I tried to get closer to the foundation, but a strange thing happened. A dog I'd brought with Mirex, a German shepherd who helps with search and rescue, wouldn't go near it. He pulled back on his leash, whimpering, his tail between his legs. I've never seen him act like that before. Looking up at the trees, I noticed something else odd. High up, maybe 30 feet off the ground, branches were snapped and broken. Not just a few, but a clear path, like something big had flown through the trees. The path of broken branches seemed to lead deeper into the pine barrens, toward an area where not many people go. I decided to follow it. I'd been walking for about 20 minutes when a chill ran down my spine. Something made me look down at my footprints in the sandy soil. Right next to my boot prints were hoof prints, the same kind I'd seen at the Kowalski farm. But they hadn't been there a minute ago. It was like something invisible was walking right beside me, matching me step for step. I froze, my hand moving, slowly toward my grandfather's revolver. The forest had gone silent again. No birds, no insects, nothing. Then I heard a sound like leathery wings flapping, somewhere above the trees. I should have turned back right then. Every instinct told me to run, to get in my jeep and drive far away from the pine barrens. But I couldn't. I had to know what was happening in my forest. I followed the path of broken branches until I reached one of the bigger cranberry bogs. The afternoon sun was starting to sink, turning the water a deep red color. Everything was quiet and still, too still. That's when I saw it. At first, it was just a ripple in the center of the bog. Then the water started to churn, like something big was moving underneath. I stood frozen, watching as something began to rise from the bog. Water poured off it like a waterfall as it lifted itself up. I still remember every detail, though I've tried so hard to forget. It had a head like a horse, but wrong somehow. Longer, with a mouth full of teeth that no horse should have jagged like broken glass. Its eyes were the worst part. They glowed with an angry red light, and when they looked at me, I felt like they could see every scared thought in my head. Its body was hard to describe, part horse, part something else. But the wings, those I remember clearly. They were like bat wings, but huge, spanning at least 20 feet. They were torn and ragged in places, like they'd been through a lot over the years, but they still looked powerful. The creature stepped out of the bog onto the shore, and its hooves hit the stones with a sound like metal striking flint. Sparks actually flew up where it stepped, and I noticed that each footprint it left was smoking, like the ground was burning. Its tail was forked at the end, like a snake's tongue, and it whipped back and forth, slicing through small pine trees as easily as if they were made of paper. Then it screamed. I've heard a lot of terrible sounds in my life: car crashes, people in pain, that helicopter coming down, but nothing like this. It was a sound that didn't seem possible, too high and too low at the same time. The crystal on my watch shattered, and I felt a pain deep in my ears. I fumbled for my camera. I needed proof, needed someone else to see this thing, but when I checked the screen later, all I had were pictures of myself, looking terrified and alone, like the creature wasn't even there. The Jersey Devil, because what else could it be, moved in ways that didn't make sense. Sometimes it seemed to be flying, then suddenly it was running on the ground. Once, I swear, it disappeared completely, only to reappear closer to me. It wasn't following the normal rules of how things should move. The worst part came when it opened its mouth again. This time, instead of a scream, I heard voices, children's voices, calling for help, calling for their parents. I recognized one voice from an old missing child case from my first year as a ranger, a little girl who had wandered away from a camping trip and was never found. Help me. The voice called in that little girl's exact voice. I'm lost. Then other voices joined in, more children, all lost in these woods over the years. The devil was using their voices like a cruel trick. I backed away slowly, not wanting to make any sudden moves. My hand was on my revolver, but what good would bullets do against something like this? This was a creature that had been haunting the pine barrens since colonial times. If the stories were true, as I moved back, it moved forward, matching my pace. Those burning eyes never left mine. It was like it knew me, like it had been waiting for me specifically. Kate Morrison, it said, using the voice of Tommy, the boy who had died in my arms 3 years ago. I've been waiting for you. My blood turned to ice. How did it know my name? How did it know about Tommy? You couldn't save them, it continued, its voice changing to blend all the children together. You can't save anyone. I turned and ran. I'm not ashamed to admit it. Some threats you can't face head on. I ran as fast as I could through the trees, branches whipping at my face, roots trying to trip me. Behind me, I heard the heavy beat of wings and the sound of hooves, sometimes close, sometimes far away. like it was playing with me. I knew then that I wasn't dealing with an animal or even some undiscovered species. This was something else, entirely something that knew how to hurt me in the worst possible way. I ran until my lungs burned. My mind was spinning with what I'd just seen. Part of mythological grown-up, part kept trying to come up with explanations. Maybe it was a bear standing on its hind legs. Maybe the wings were just branches behind it. Maybe the voices were just my imagination. But I knew better. I'd seen it with my own eyes. Up ahead, I spotted the old fire tower. It was built in the 1950s for rangers to watch for forest fires, but we don't use it much anymore. Still, it was tall, about 50 feet high and made of metal. Maybe I could get above the tree line and see where the creature was. Maybe I could call for help if I could get a signal up there. My EMT training was kicking in, telling me to treat myself for shock. My hands were cold and shaking, my heart racing too fast. But there's no first aid for coming face to face with something that shouldn't exist. I sprinted toward the tower, looking back over my shoulder. I couldn't see the Jersey Devil, but I could smell it, that awful rotten egg smell that seemed to hang in the air wherever it went. The ladder up to the tower was old and rusty, but it held my weight. I climbed as fast as I could, the metal rungs cold under my hands. When I reached the observation deck at the top, I could see for miles in every direction. The pine barrens stretched out like a green carpet, with the cranberry bogs making red patches here and there. I pulled out my radio, but all I got was static and those same strange voices speaking old-timey English. My phone showed no signal. Then I saw it circling the tower like a shark circles a swimmer. The Jersey Devil wasn't rushing to get me. It was taking its time, like it knew I had nowhere to go. Every so often, it would fly close to the tower and strike it with its claws, testing the metal. I felt the whole structure shake. This tower was old and hadn't been maintained properly in years. It wouldn't take much to bring it down. I pulled out my grandfather's revolver. The gun felt tiny and useless against a creature that had supposedly survived for centuries, but it was all I had. The devil made another pass, hitting the tower harder this time. I felt the whole thing sway beneath me. Metal groaned and bolts strained. It wouldn't last much longer. In desperation, I emptied my medical bag onto the deck. Bandages, antiseptic wipes, scissors, my stethoscope. I threw everything I could at the creature. Most things just bounced off its hide, but when a bottle of alcohol hit it, the creature let out a hiss of pain. It circled again, lower this time, those burning eyes fixed on me. Then it landed on the edge of the observation deck, making the whole tower tilt dangerously to one side. It moved toward me slowly, almost gently, like it had all the time in the world, like it had been waiting for this moment for a very long time. I raised my revolver with shaking hands. "Stay back," I warned, though I don't know why I thought it would listen. "I'll shoot." The Jersey Devil opened its mouth, and Tommy's voice came out again. "You couldn't save me," it said. "You can't save yourself." I fired. The bullet hit it, right between those glowing eyes. Nothing happened. The creature didn't even flinch. The tower gave another dangerous creak, metal twisting under stress it was never meant to bear. I looked down and saw that the supports were starting to buckle. I made my decision in that moment. If I was going down, I was taking this thing with me. I grabbed the main support cables that ran from the observation deck to the ground and pulled with all my strength. At the same time, I lunged toward the creature, tackling it around what I guessed was its neck. The cables snapped, the tower's legs folded, and we fell. 50 feet doesn't sound like much, but when you're falling that far with a monster, it feels like forever. I remember the wind rushing past, the screaming of metal, and that awful smell all around me. The impact knocked me out. When I woke up, I was in the hospital. The doctors told me I'd been found by hikers the next day, half buried under the collapsed tower. My back was broken in 3 places. They said I was lucky to be alive, but I wasn't sure how lucky I was, because every night since then, at exactly 3:17 a.m., I wake up to the sound of wings outside my window, and sometimes, when the moon is right, I see shapes moving out. They're smaller than the creature I saw, but with the same burning eyes. I'm in a wheelchair now. The doctors say I'll never walk again. I've moved into a small house on the edge of the Pine Barrens, and I spend my days writing down everything I know about the Jersey Devil and other strange things in these woods. I keep my grandfather's revolver loaded next to my bed, though I know now it won't do any good. The thing that scares me most is that I think the Jersey Devil wasn't trying to kill me that day. I think it was trying to show me something. I think those smaller shapes I see sometimes are its children, and I think someday, when I'm not being careful, when I'm not watching, they'll find a way in. So if you're ever in the Pine Barrens of New Jersey, and you see strange lights over the cranberry bogs, or hear children's voices calling from deep in the woods, or smell that awful rotten egg, run as fast as you can, because the Jersey Devil is real, and now it's not alone anymore. My name is Daniel Cross, Danny to most folks. I've been a park ranger in the Croatan National Forest for almost 5 years now. It's a job that most days I'm thankful for, even if it wasn't my first choice in life. The summer heat in North Carolina is something else. It wraps around you like a wet blanket, making everything stick to everything else. The swamp is the worst. It steams like a pot left on the stove too long, and the cypress trees with their hanging moss look like something out of an old horror movie. It was late August, hurricane season. You could feel it in the air, that tight, heavy feeling, like the sky was pressing down on you. The weather folks on TV kept talking about storms building up over the Atlantic. I could feel it in my bones too. Something was coming. I was out on my airboat that morning, cutting through the black water of the swamp. The engine was loud, but I was used to it. The water behind me looked like someone had dragged a silver knife through dark silk. These channels haven't changed much since prehistoric times. Sometimes I think about that, how I'm moving through the same water paths that existed when dinosaurs were around. Alligators were out sunning themselves on fallen logs. Big ones too. They watched me pass with those ancient eyes. They don't blink much, just watch. They've been the kings of these waters for millions of years, and they know it. I cut the engine, near a stand of cattails where a great blue heron was fishing. These birds are something to see till as a kid, with that long neck and sharp beak. This one was standing completely still, like a statue. Then splash, it struck, quick as lightning, and came up with a fish. But then something weird happened. The heron suddenly took off, wings beating frantically like it had seen a ghost. Birds don't waste energy flying unless they have to. Something had spooked it bad. And that's when I noticed the silence. If you've never been in a swamp, you might not understand how noisy they usually are. Frogs croaking, insects buzzing, birds calling, fish jumping, gators grunting. But now, nothing. Like someone had hit a mute button on the whole place. I reached for my radio to check in with headquarters. All I got was static and weird bursts of Spanish that were too fast for me to catch. I'm not great with Spanish anyway, but this sounded urgent, almost panicked. Looking up, I saw dark clouds building on the horizon. That was strange. The weather service had predicted clear skies all week. My watch has a barometer in it, and the needle was dropping fast. Pressure drop like that usually means one thing: storm coming. I decided to head back, but something caught my eye on a massive cypress tree near the bank. Fresh claw marks, not the usual scratches you see from bears or wildcats. These were deep, gouges in the hard wood, and they were high up, maybe 8 feet off the ground. Whatever made them was big. I pulled the boat closer and saw something stuck in the splintered wood. At first, I thought it was just tree bark, but when I poked it with my pen, I realized it was different, tougher, almost like skin, but not from any animal I recognized. That's when the first drop of rain hit my hand, and thunder rolled across the swamp. Something was in my forest, something that didn't belong, and I had a feeling I was going to meet it soon. I headed back to my truck as quick as I could, my left knee clicking with each step. That sound follows me everywhere, a constant reminder of what happened 8 years ago. One bad tackle in my last college game, and just like that, my football dreams were over. The pain in my knee got worse as the weather changed. Storm coming meant my leg would ache all night. I popped the glove compartment open and looked at the pill bottle. I'd been trying to take fewer of them, but today might not be that day. Sometimes I wonder how different things would have been. That letter from Alabama still hangs on my wall back home. Full scholarship, my ticket to the NFL. Now it's just paper yellowed with age, making fun of me every time I look at it. While my old teammates went on to play professional ball, I ended up at the community college down the road. Got a forestry degree from professors who spent more time in classrooms than forests. It wasn't what I'd planned, but at least it was something. I swallowed a pain pill dry and pulled out my wallet. Inside was Lisa's letter, folded and worn soft from how many times I'd read it. I can't watch you destroy yourself anymore. She'd written that was 2 years ago, right when the pills were at their worst. Can't really blame her. My radio crackled to life. Danny, you there? It was Dr. Walsh, the wildlife biologist I was supposed to meet up with today. She and her students were investigating those animal deaths that started a few weeks back. Yet, I'm here, just checking out something weird by Miller's Creek, I answered. We found something disturbing at our camp, she said, her voice tense. Several dead animals, all with the same strange marks. Can you come right away? I told her I was on my way. This was exactly what they were studying, animals found drained of blood with weird puncture wounds that didn't match any predator known in North Carolina. As I drove toward their research camp, my dad's Purple Heart medal clinked in my pocket. He'd given it to me after he got back from Vietnam. Crossmen always finish what they start, he'd said. Sometimes that family motto felt like a curse. I touched the handle of my grandfather's .357 Magnum, holstered at my hip. Old Harry Cross had used it to put down rabid dogs and wounded deer on our family farm. I'd never had to use it for anything serious in my ranger duties. Mostly it just scared off the occasional troublemaker. The rain was coming down harder now. Through the windshield wipers, I saw Dr. Jennifer Walsh's campsite up ahead. She had 2 grad students with Jeremy Chen and Marcus Taylor. They'd been here 3 days, setting up equipment to study whatever was killing the forest animals. I parked and grabbed my rain jacket. Something felt off. The tents were still there, but I didn't see any people moving around. Just a quick of it. Cameras, sensors, laptops, all the high-tech stuff Dr. Walsh had brought to track whatever was out there. Dr. Walsh, I called out, my voice sounding small in the vast forest. Jennifer, Amy, Marcus, no answer, just the steady drum of rain on leaves. A chill ran down my spine that had nothing to do with the weather. I unsnapped the holster of my grandfather's gun, just in case. Something was very wrong here, and whatever it was, I had a feeling I was about to find out. The rain eased up a bit as I approached the main tent. My flashlight beam cut through the early evening darkness, revealing something that made my stomach drop. Blood everywhere. The research campsite looked like something from a nightmare. Dr. Walsh's expensive equipment was scattered across the clearing. A laptop lay smashed open like an egg. Camera gear worth thousands of dollars was tossed around like cheap toys. Hello? Anybody here? I called out again, my voice shaking a little. The first tent I checked was Amy's. Her sleeping bag was torn to shreds, like something had burst out from inside it. Not clawed in from outside, burst out. Pieces of blue fabric hung from the tent poles like sad flags. Amy, I called, sweeping my flashlight around. That's when I saw something hanging from a cypress branch about 20 feet away. At first, I thought it was just a jacket caught in the tree, but as I got closer, my blood went cold. It was Marcus. He was hanging upside down from a branch, his face white as paper. His body looked empty somehow. When I checked for a pulse, his skin felt cold and dry. I've seen dead people before, car accidents, drownings, but this was different. It was like all the life had been sucked right out of him. I took a deep breath and forced myself to look closer. There were 2 small holes on his neck, perfectly spaced like a snake bite, but they were too big to clean. No snake in North Carolina, anywhere in America, could make marks like that. I radioed for backup, but all I got was static. The storm was getting worse, and out here in the swamp, reception was spotty at the best of times. As I turned to check the other tents, something caught my eye. The campfire in the center of the site was burning. That didn't make sense. These scientists were careful people. They wouldn't leave a fire going when they went to sleep, and the way the ashes were arranged, it almost looked like they formed a pattern, a symbol of some kind. Looking at it for too long made my head hurt. I moved to Dr. Walsh's main research tent. Her computers and equipment were going haywire. The screens flashed with static and strange images I couldn't make sense of. A GPS unit sparked and died as I watched. My own phone was dead too, though I'd charged it that morning. The smell hit me next, like rotten eggs, mixed with something worse, something animal. It coated the back of my throat and made me gag. On Dr. Walsh's tablet, a video was playing on repeat. I pressed play and saw her face, pale and scared. "Something's out there," she whispered in the video. "We keep hearing it circling the camp. It moves like liquid shadow. The equipment can't get a reading on it. Every time we think we've tracked it, It's somewhere else entirely. The animals we've found were just the beginning. It's hunting bigger prey now. If anyone finds this, the video cut off there. I pulled out my compass to get my bearings, thinking I should head back to my truck and drive for help. But the needle just spun wildly, unable to find north. It was like something was messing with the magnetic field. That's when I heard a soft splash. Behind me, I turned slowly toward the water's edge. The black surface of the swamp was rippling, forming a V-shaped wake. Something was moving through the water, following the exact path I'd taken to get here, and it was coming straight toward me. I backed away from the water's edge, my hand resting on my grandfather's gun. The ripples grew larger as whatever was under the surface got closer. Then it came out of the water. I've spent my whole life in these forests. I know every animal that lives here: bears, cougars, alligators, snakes. This wasn't any of those. The creature pulled itself from the swamp like it was being born. Water poured off its body, which was covered in what looked like wet, scaly skin. It stood about 4 feet tall, on powerful back legs. Its front limbs had claws that dug into the mud as it climbed onto shore. But it was the eyes that got me, big and black like pools of oil. They caught the light from my flashlight and seemed to swallow it, and they were looking right at me. The thing moved funny, sometimes on 2 legs, sometimes on all 4s, but always faster than it should be. It circled me, keeping just at the edge of my flashlight beam. I didn't think. I just pulled my gun and fired. The bullet went right through. I don't mean it missed, I mean it passed through the creature like it was made of fog. For a split second, I could see the trees behind it through its body. Then it became solid again, moving closer. A sound came from it, a low hum that I felt more than heard. It made my head spin and my stomach turn. I stumbled, trying to keep my balance as the world tilted around me. The creature was hard to see now. Its skin changed color to match the trees and mud behind it. If I hadn't been looking right at it, I might have missed it completely. Danny, ... double quotes, a voice called. I froze. It was Dr. Walsh's voice, but it was coming from the creature's direction. Danny, help me, ... I swung my flashlight toward the sound. For a second, I thought I saw Dr. Walsh standing there. Her hand reached out toward me. But then my light caught something hanging from a tree branch behind her, Dr. Walsh's actual body, pale and empty like Marcus's had been. Danny, please. The voice was coming from the creature now, using Dr. Walsh's words like a lure. I backed away, my mind racing. This thing wasn't just killing, it was taking things from its victims. Their blood, their voices. A smell hit me then, sweet but wrong, like rotting fruit. It made my head swim with strange pictures. I saw the football field where I'd hurt my knee, felt the tackle that ended my career all over again. I saw my dad's disappointed face when I told him I was becoming a park ranger instead of the NFL star he'd wanted me to be. How did this thing know? How was it putting these pictures in my head? The rain was coming down harder now, and thunder boomed overhead. Hurricane Alina, which had been predicted to miss us, was changing course. I could feel it in the air pressure, in the wind that whipped through the trees. I had to get away from this thing, find somewhere to think. Running was impossible, it was too fast. But maybe I could get to higher ground. I fired my gun 3 more times, not at the creature, but in different directions. The noise seemed to confuse it for a moment. In that split second, I ran for a small island I knew was about 50 yards through the swamp. Just a hump of land with a few trees, but it was surrounded by deeper water. The creature screamed a sound like metal. Terringand came after me. I splashed through knee-deep water, my injured leg screaming in pain, the island getting closer with each step. Behind me, something moved through the water much faster than I could run. I reached the island just as the first real blast of hurricane wind hit the swamp. Rain came down in sheets now, and lightning split the sky. I stumbled onto the muddy shore, gasping for breath. The small island wasn't much, just a raised bit of land with 3 cypress trees and some scrubby bushes, but it was surrounded by deeper water, which might slow the creature down. At least that's what I hoped. I reloaded, my gun with shaking hands. 2 bullets left. Not that they seemed to do much good. Danny, I spun around, pointing my gun toward the voice. Dr. Walsh stood at the edge of the trees, her clothes soaked through. Relief flooded me for a second, until I looked at her eyes. They were black pools, just like the creature's, and her neck, to puncture marks, stood out against her pale skin. You shouldn't have come here, Danny, she said, her voice flat. "You can't stop this. What are you?" I asked, my gun still pointed at her. "I'm Jennifer," she said, but her voice changed halfway through, becoming something else, a rasping, inhuman sound. "And I'm hungry." The wind howled around us, bending the trees almost sideways. Hurricane Alina was hitting full force now, hours before it was supposed to arrive. The water around the small island was rising fast as the storm pushed the swamp water inland. Dr. Walsh, or the thing wearing her face, smiled. "You were always going to fail, Danny. Just like you failed at football. Just like you failed, Lisa. Just like you failed your father." Images flooded my mind, the scholarship letter, my dad turning away in disappointment, Lisa leaving. But something felt wrong about these pictures. They weren't my memories, not exactly. They were twisted, darker versions. "You're in my head," I said, fighting to think clearly. "You're making me see things." Dr. Walsh circled me, moving with that same strange speed the creature had shown. "I can taste your fear, your regret. It makes the blood sweeter." I fired a shot near her feet. She didn't even flinch. "Poor Danny," she continued, always trying to prove himself. "No one believes in you. No one ever did." The water had reached my ankles now, the island shrinking as the storm surge rose. I was running out of time and options. Then I noticed something. When lightning flashed, I could see 2 Dr. Walshes, one solid, standing in front of me, and another, like a shadow or reflection, hovering just behind her. The shadow version looked scared, her mouth moving like she was trying to speak but couldn't. A thought hit me then, something from the video I'd seen. "It moves like liquid shadow," she'd said. What if Dr. Walsh wasn't dead? What if the creature had somehow ... connected to her, used her like a puppet? "Jennifer," I said, lowering my gun slightly, "if you're in there, fight it. Help me understand how to stop this thing." The creature hissed, but for a split second, Dr. Walsh's face changed, her real face, frightened but determined. "Danny," she gasped, her voice her own again. "It's a parasite. It bonds with a host, feeds through them." She was fighting to speak, each word a struggle. "It's connected to me now. My mind, my memories. It uses them to hunt." "How do I kill it?" I asked desperately. The creature took control again, lunging at me with inhuman speed. I fell back into the rising water, barely keeping my gun above the surface. "You can't," Dr. Walsh's voice said, but I heard a whisper underneath it, her real voice. "You have to ... kill me. It's the only way." The creature screamed in rage, but I could see it now, the connection between them, like a shadow tether linking Dr. Walsh to the beast. The water was up to my knees. Soon the whole island would be underwater. Lightning struck one of the cypress trees, splitting it down the middle with a deafening crack. Dr. Walsh's body convulsed, and for a moment she broke through again. "Danny," she pleaded, "you have to do it. I'm already gone. It's the only way to stop it from taking more people." I raised my grandfather's gun one last time. The creature inside Dr. Walsh realized what I was about to do. It tried to back away, to hide behind her consciousness. "I'm sorry," I whispered. I pulled the trigger. Dr. Walsh's body fell backward into the churning water. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the water around her began to boil and churn. A high-pitched scream cut through even the roar of the hurricane. The creature, now visible as a dark, writhing shape, detached from her body and thrashed in agony before sinking. Beneath the black water of the swamp, I grabbed Dr. Walsh's body and pulled her to the highest part of the island. She was gone, but at least the thing that killed her was gone too. The hurricane raged all night. I tied myself to the remaining cypress trees to avoid being swept away by the storm surge. By morning, the water had receded, and the skies were a clear, innocent blue, as if nothing had happened. Search and rescue teams found me later that day. I told them about Marcus and Amy, about the animal deaths, about the storm, but I never told them about the creature. Who would believe me? They found Dr. Walsh's body and ruled it a gunshot wound. Self-defense during a storm-induced psychotic episode. Close enough to the truth, I suppose. I still work as a ranger in the Croatan National Forest. My knee still clicks when I walk. I still carry my grandfather's gun, but I never go out on the water alone anymore. And when the swamp falls silent, I turn my boat around and head for shore, because some things are better left alone in the dark water, and sometimes the monsters we fear are all too real. The Beast of Bladenborough hasn't been seen since that night in 1992, but every hurricane season, when the air gets heavy and the pressure drops, I listen for that low hum in my bones, and I wonder if it's really gone, or just waiting for the next storm to rise again from the black water. My name is Victoria Ramsey, but everyone calls me Vic. I've been a park ranger at Glacier National Park for 5 years now, ever since I left the military. Some days, I still can't believe how beautiful this place is. This morning started like any other. The sun was just coming up, turning the sky pink and orange as I hiked along my usual trail. Glacier National Park is like a giant cathedral made by nature. The mountains are so tall they seem to touch the clouds, and the valleys between them were carved out by glaciers thousands of years ago. I stopped by one of the lakes to catch my breath. The water was so still it looked like a perfect mirror, showing the mountains upside down. My hiking boots made crunching sounds as I walked through the frost-covered pine needles. Each step released that sharp, clean smell of pine that always makes me feel free. High above, a golden eagle was soaring between the mountain peaks. It looked so peaceful, riding the warm air currents, while mountain goats carefully picked their way across the steep cliffs nearby. The silence up here is different from anywhere else, deep and calm, only broken by the distant sound of water from melting glaciers falling down the mountainsides. Then something strange happened. The eagle suddenly dropped from the sky, not diving for prey, but falling like something had grabbed it. In that moment, everything went quiet. No wind, no birds singing, not even the sound of snow falling or ice cracking. I pulled out my satellite phone to check in with base. The signal was full, but when I tried different frequencies, all I got was static mixed with what sounded like Native American chanting. I couldn't make out any words, just rhythmic sounds that made the hair on my arms stand up. The sky changed in minutes. Dark clouds rolled in faster than I've ever seen, turning the bright morning into something that felt like the end of the world. The temperature dropped so fast I could see my breath. While I was trying to figure out what was happening, I noticed something else. There was a boulder nearby with ancient rock carvings on it, petroglyphs left by people who lived here long ago. I'd seen them many times before, but today they looked different. It was like they were moving, shifting slightly when I wasn't looking directly at them. I couldn't understand what they meant, but they gave me a feeling of warning, like a whispered message I couldn't quite hear. I've been in dangerous situations before. During my time in the military, I know what fear feels like, but this was different. This wasn't human danger. Something was wrong with the mountain itself, with the air, with the silence. That's when I remembered why I was out here in the first place. 4 days ago, a research team went missing. Dr. Elizabeth Hartwell and 3 graduate students had been studying how climate change affects the plants and animals up in these high mountain areas. They were supposed to check in every evening, but 4 nights ago, the calls stopped. No distress signal, no explanation. They just vanished. As the park's senior ranger, it was my job to find them. I'd been searching for 3 days already with no luck. Today, I was heading to their last known location, a small research station about 6 miles further up the mountain. I took one last look at those shifting petroglyphs, adjusted my backpack, and kept walking. The dark clouds hung low overhead, and that strange silence followed me like a shadow. Something was waiting for me up there in the mountains, something that wasn't supposed to exist. Little did I know that this day would force me to face not just whatever was hunting in these mountains, but the ghosts of my past that I've been running from for years. As I walked through the quiet forest, my mind kept going back to my past. Old memories have a way of finding you when you're alone. I came to Glacier National Park to get away from everything that happened in Grenada. That was 5 years ago, but it feels like yesterday. I was military police then, in charge of keeping a convoy safe. We were just doing a regular patrol when the explosion happened. An IED, that's a hidden bomb, went off, right under the lead vehicle. Sergeant Mitchell was my best friend. I can still hear him calling my name right before everything went black. When I woke up in the hospital, they told me I was the only one who made it. They gave me a Purple Heart medal, but I keep it in a shoebox under my bed. I don't want to look at it. The nightmares never really stopped. That's why I couldn't make things work with Michael. We were married for 3 years after I got back. But how do you explain to someone that you can't sleep without checking the doors 3 times, or that you keep a loaded gun by the bed? The divorce papers are still sitting on my desk, unsigned. Some things are hard to let go of. I touched the silver cross hanging round my neck. It wasn't mine, it belonged to Mitchell. His mum gave it to me at his funeral. He would want you to have it, she said. I didn't deserve her kindness, but I've worn it every day since. My boots crunched on the path as I checked my map. The research camp should be just over the next ridge. I adjusted the Beretta M9 pistol on my hip, standard military issue, the same one I carried in Grenada. Some habits die hard. People think being a park ranger is all about helping lost hikers and telling people not to feed the bears. Most days, that's true. But these mountains can be dangerous. My military medical training has saved more than a few lives out here, setting broken bones, stopping bleeding, treating hypothermia. Nature doesn't care how prepared you think you are. I know these mountains better than anyone. I've climbed every peak and hiked every valley, always searching for something I can't name. Peace, maybe, or forgiveness. I haven't found either yet. The wind picked up, cold against my face. Dr. Hartwell and her students had been studying how climate change affects high mountain plants and animals. Elizabeth was smart and careful, not the type to just disappear. I'd met her team when they first arrived: Kevin Chen, a grad student studying alpine plants; Maria Delgado, who was researching mountain goat migration patterns; and Tyler Wilson, who was mapping glacier retreat. Good people doing important work. I stopped to take a drink from my water bottle. The silence up here was getting to me. Usually, you'd hear birds, small animals rustling in the underbrush, the wind in the trees. But there was nothing like the mountain was holding its breath. My satellite phone beeped, startling me. For a second, I thought it was working again, but it was just the low battery warning. Great. I knew I should have waited for backup, but that's not really my way. My commander in Grenada used to say, my biggest problem was that I always walked straight into danger. You can't save everyone, Ramsey, he told me once. But I never learned that lesson. Maybe that's why I'm here alone, tracking down 4 missing people in a silent forest that feels more wrong with every step. The research station was just ahead. As I got closer, I could see something wasn't right. The bright blue tents were still there, but something about them looked ... wrong. My heart started beating faster, and I felt that familiar rush of adrenaline, the body's way of getting ready for trouble. I pulled out my binoculars and focused on the camp. What I saw made me freeze in my tracks. The camp was destroyed, not by a bear or bad weather, but something else, something I couldn't explain. And that's when I knew this wasn't going to be a regular search and rescue mission. Some people run away from danger, but ever since Grenada, I've always run toward it. Maybe because deep down, I'm still trying to save those I couldn't save before. Or maybe because part of me is still looking for the danger that will finally make things even. I approached the research camp slowly, one hand resting on my pistol. Years of training had taught me to be careful, to watch for signs of danger, but nothing had prepared me for what I found. The 4 bright blue tents were torn to shreds, not randomly, like a bear attack, but with careful, almost surgical cuts. The team's equipment, laptops, sample containers, cameras was arranged in strange patterns on the ground. It looked like someone had placed each item deliberately, making shapes that almost made sense but didn't quite fit together. "Hello," I called out. "Dr. Hartwell, Kevin, Maria, Tyler." My voice echoed back at me from the mountains. Nothing else. I knelt down beside what was left of the main research tent. A notebook lay open on the ground, its pages fluttering in the light breeze. I recognized Dr. Hartwell's neat handwriting. The last entry was dated 4 days ago. Day 14. Weather. Conditions ideal for sampling. Kevin found 3 new plant species that shouldn't be growing at this altitude. Maria reports unusual mountain goat behavior. They're avoiding the north face entirely. Tyler's glacier measurements show accelerated melting, but there's something, ELSEI, keep feeling like we're being watched. Something's out there, just beyond the trees. I caught a glimpse of eyes reflecting our campfire. Golden eyes, too large to be a wolf or mountain lion. I'm not usually one for ghost stories, but the local legends about this area keep coming back to me. We'll radio base tomorrow if this feeling persists. But she never made that call. I stood up, and that's when I noticed the footprints. Large paw prints circled the camp, pressing deep into the soft earth. I've tracked wolves and mountain lions before, but these were different. They started looking like wolf prints, 4 toes, claws extended, but as they continued around the camp, they gradually changed. The 5th time around, they weren't animal tracks anymore. They looked almost ... human. A smell hit me then, strong and wild, like a zoo's big cat house, but mixed with something else. something older and wrong that made my stomach turn. I followed the strange tracks with my eyes until they led to a tall lodgepole pine at the edge of the clearing. That's when I saw him. Kevin Chen hung from a branch about 15 feet up, positioned like a scarecrow. His arms were spread wide, his head slumped forward. For a second I thought he might be alive, but as I got closer, I knew he wasn't. The strange thing was, there wasn't a mark on him. No blood, no wounds. Just his eyes wide open with an expression of pure terror, like he'd seen something no human should ever see. My hand shook as I reached for my radio. "Base, this is Ranger Ramsey. I've found the research camp. One confirmed casualty. Kevin Chen. I need backup and medical examiner." Over. Only static answered me. I tried my satellite phone. Nothing. My GPS unit spun wildly, the needle turning in circles like it couldn't figure out where north was. When I tried to take a picture of the scene with my digital camera, the screen showed only shadows and what looked like teeth. Something was very wrong here. I noticed strange symbols carved into the tree trunks around the camp. They weren't Native American, at least not from any tribe I recognized. The cuts looked fresh, still oozing sap like open wounds. The temperature suddenly dropped. My breath came out in white clouds, even though it was mid-morning in summer. I shivered, but not just from the cold. I heard a crunch behind me and spun around, drawing my pistol in one smooth motion. Nothing was there, but in the soft dirt, I saw footprints, appearing human footprints, bare feet stepping exactly where my boots had just been. Like something was following me, walking in my exact footsteps, learning how I moved. I backed away, my heart pounding. In my years as a ranger, I'd faced down grizzlies, rescued hikers from blizzards, even dealt with armed poachers. But this was different. This was something I couldn't explain. I needed to find the other members of the research team. If Kevin was here, where were Dr. Hartwell, Maria, and Tyler? Were they still alive? And what had happened here? I carefully collected Dr. Hartwell's notebook and put it in my pack. Then I studied the ground for any sign of which way the others might have gone. There were scuff marks heading north, toward the small cabin the Park Service maintained as a research station about half a mile away. It was built on the edge of a cliff, with a good view of the valley below. If I were in trouble, that's where I'd go. As I started walking that way, I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. Something was watching me from the trees, following my every move. I could feel its eyes on my back, patient and hungry. My hand tightened around Mitchell's cross. For the first time in years, I whispered a quick prayer. Not for myself, but for the 3 people who might still be alive out here. And as I walked, the footprints kept appearing behind me, stepping where I had just stepped, getting closer with each passing minute. The path to the research cabin narrowed as it climbed higher up the mountain. Tall pines crowded in on both sides, blocking out most of the sunlight. I kept looking over my shoulder, but never saw anything following me. Just those footprints that kept appearing in my boot prints, getting closer each time I checked. About halfway to the cabin, the forest opened into a small clearing. I stopped to catch my breath and take a drink of water. That's when I saw a shadow moving between the trees, not like a person or animal moving, but like the shadow itself was alive, sliding over rocks and fallen logs like oil on water. "Hello," I called out. "Dr. Hartwell, Maria, Tyler." The shadow stopped. Then it began to take shape. At first I thought it was a wolf, a big one. Then I thought maybe a bear, but as it stepped into the clearing, I realized it wasn't either. The creature stood about 7 feet tall, with a body shaped something like a hyena, higher shoulders, sloping down to powerful back legs. But that's where any resemblance to a normal animal ended. Its coat seemed to shift colors as it moved, changing from dark brown to black to a deep red that reminded me of dried blood. Its face was what haunted me most. Too intelligent for an animal, eyes that glowed golden in the shadows, watching me with what looked like ... recognition. I slowly reached for my pistol, trying not to make any sudden movements. "What are you?" I whispered, not really expecting an answer. The creature tilted its head, studying me. Then it did something impossible. It stepped backward into a large boulder and disappeared. Just ... vanished into solid rock. I blinked. Sure, I was seeing things. Then a dark shape emerged from a tree to my left, the same creature, now only 20 feet away. I pulled my gun and fired 2 shots. The bullets passed right through it like it was made of smoke. The creature made a sound, not quite a laugh, not quite a growl, and solidified again. Now I could see its claws. They looked like railroad spikes, sharp and gleaming. It took a step toward me, and I fired again. This time the bullet hit, but the creature barely flinched. It just kept coming. I turned and ran toward the cabin. Behind me, I heard a voice, a human voice I recognized. "Why didn't you save us, Vic? Why did you let us die?" I nearly tripped. It was Sergeant Mitchell's voice, exactly as I remembered it from Grenada. But that was impossible. Mitchell was dead. I'd been at his funeral. I'd seen his body. I didn't stop running until I reached the cabin. Slamming the door behind me, I leaned against it, breathing hard. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold my gun. This isn't real, I told myself. This can't be real. But the cold fear in my stomach felt real enough. Whatever that thing was, it wasn't a normal animal. And somehow, it knew about Mitchell. It knew my deepest guilt. I forced myself to look around the cabin. It was small, just one room, with a wood stove, a table, 2 chairs, and a set of bunk beds. Emergency supplies lined the shelves. Canned food, water, first aid kit, emergency blankets. A propane tank sat in the corner for the small heater. There were emergency flares in a box by the door. There was no sign of Dr. Hartwell or the other students. I checked my watch. 2:30 p.m. At least 6 hours until sunset. And backup wouldn't come looking for me until tomorrow at the earliest. I was on my own. Outside, something scratched at the door. Not closet, sounded like fingers. "Victoria." It was Mitchell's voice. Again, "Open the door, Vic. We need to talk about what happened." I covered my ears, but the voice seemed to come from inside my head now. "Remember the convoy? Remember how you froze when you saw the IT 3 seconds, Vic? That's all it would have taken to warn us, but you hesitated." "That's not what happened," I said out loud. "I didn't see it. Nobody saw it. You saw it. You just didn't want to believe it." The voice was right. I had seen something strange on the road that day, a patch of disturbed dirt, but I'd dismissed it, thinking it was nothing. That 3-second delay had cost 8 lives. The windows began to darken, even though it was the middle of the afternoon. Looking out, I saw shadows bending around the cabin, twisting in ways shadows shouldn't move. The creature was out there, circling, playing with me. Then I saw something else, a vision, like a movie playing in my mind. I saw Grenada, the dusty road, the convoy. I saw myself in the lead vehicle, noticing something strange on the road ahead. I saw my hesitation, then the explosion, bodies flying through the air, blood on the windshield, Mitchell calling my name. I fell to my knees, clutching Mitchell's cross so hard the edges cut into my palm. The vision faded, but the guilt remained, fresh and raw, like it had happened yesterday. That's when I understood what the creature was doing. It wasn't just hunting Mitt, was feeding on my guilt, growing stronger with each painful memory it pulled from my mind. The Shankar-Rakan, I remembered hearing about it years ago from an old Blackfeet man who worked at the park, a shapeshifter that preyed on those carrying the weight of terrible guilt. Not just a predator of the body, but of the soul. As darkness fell outside, the creature's attacks grew stronger. It showed me visions of Kevin Chen's death, of Dr. Hartwell calling for help that never came, of Maria and Tyler running through the forest in terror. I was trapped in the cabin with nowhere to run and a monster. That fed on my deepest regrets, but as I felt its power growing, I realized something important. If it was trying this hard to break me down mentally, maybe it wasn't as physically strong as it appeared. Every predator has a weakness. I just had to figure out what this one's was. Night fell over the mountains, bringing a darkness deeper than any I'd ever seen. No stars, no moon, just blackness pressing against the cabin windows like a living thing. I sat at the table with my gun in one hand and Mitchell's cross in the other. My military training had taught me to stay calm in dangerous situations, to assess what I had and make a plan. So that's what I did. The cabin had 1 door and 2 windows. The propane tank in the corner was nearly full. There were emergency flares in a box by the door. Basic tools hung on the wall, an axe, a hammer, some nails. Not much to work with against something that could walk through walls. Outside, the creature continued to circle. Sometimes I heard Mitchell's voice, sometimes Maria's or Tyler's, begging for help. Once, I even heard Michael, my ex-husband, asking why I never let him in, why I always pushed him away. "It's not real," I told myself. "It's using your memories against you." But knowing that didn't make it any easier to hear. Around midnight, the attacks changed. The creature began showing me visions of what happened to the research team. I saw Dr. Hartwell running through the forest, the creature always just behind her. I saw Maria hiding in a cave, praying not to be found. I saw Tyler trying to fight it off with a broken branch. "Stop it," I shouted, pressing my hands against my eyes. But the visions continued inside my head. That's when I noticed something. Each time the creature showed me these painful visions, I clutched Mitchell's cross tighter. And each time I did, the visions grew slightly weaker, like bad reception on a TV. I looked down at the silver cross in my hand. During one of the visions, I had pressed it so hard against my palm that it left a mark. And in that moment, the vision had briefly stopped completely. Could it be that simple? The old Blackfeet man who told me about the Shunka had mentioned that pure silver was one of the few things that could harm spirits of the shadow world. I had to test my theory. I moved to the window and held up the cross where the creature could see it. A low growl came from the darkness, and the shadows pulled back slightly. "You don't like this, do you?" I said, my voice steadier than I felt. The creature responded with Mitchell's voice again. "Put that away, Vic. We need to talk about Grenada, about how you failed us." "No," I said firmly. "I didn't fail you, Mitchell. I did everything I could. Not enough, never enough." The voice changed, becoming something older, deeper, a voice that didn't sound human at all. "Your guilt is delicious, Ranger. The tastiest I've found in centuries." "Well, enjoy it while you can," I said, "because it's all you're getting from me." I started gathering what I needed. I took the emergency flares from their box. I dragged the propane tank to the center of the room. I found a bottle of alcohol in the first aid kit and poured it around the tank. Then I waited by the door, cross in one hand, flare in the other. "I know you can hear me," I called out. "I know what you are now. You're not just feeding on my guilt, you need it. Without it, you're nothing." The creature howled a sound that started like a wolf's cry, but ended in something close to human laughter. "Clever Ranger," it said, no longer bothering to use a voice I recognized. "But knowing what I am won't save you, or them." A vision flashed in my mind. Dr. Hartwell, Maria, and Tyler, all alive but trapped somewhere dark. Their eyes were open, but empty, like they were seeing things no human should see. "They're still alive," I whispered. "For now," the creature agreed. "Their minds are ... elsewhere. With me, just as yours will be soon." That was the missing piece. The creature hadn't killed them all. It was feeding on their fear and guilt, keeping them in some kind of trance. That's why Kevin's body had no marks, but his eyes showed terror. His mind had been attacked, not his body. They might still be alive. I could still save them. I took a deep breath and threw open the cabin door. "Come and get me then," I shouted into the darkness. "Let's end this." At first, nothing happened. Then shadows began to pool in front of the cabin, swirling together like black water down a drain. The Shunka formed out of those shadows, more solid than before, its red-black fur gleaming in the faint light from the cabin, its golden eyes fixed on me. "A brave last stand," it said. "I do enjoy the brave ones." It took a step toward me. I held up the cross. The creature paused, its form wavering slightly. "Mitchell died because of bad luck and an enemy we were fighting," I said, "not because of me. I've carried that guilt for 5 years, but I'm done now." "Lies," the creature hissed. "I can taste the guilt inside you. It's still there." "You're right," I admitted. "It is, but guilt doesn't mean I failed. It means I cared. And caring about others isn't weakness, it's strength." I lunged forward and pressed the cross against the creature's head. It shrieked a sound like metal tearing and tried to phase through the cabin wall, but the silver seemed to disrupt its ability. For a moment, it was solid, vulnerable. I struck a flare and tossed it through the open door, onto the alcohol-soaked propane tank. Then I ran. The explosion lifted me off my feet and threw me into the snow. Heat washed over my back as the cabin erupted in flames. I rolled over in time to see the Shunka caught in the blast, its body glowing from within like a paper lantern, golden light pouring from its eyes and mouth. It screamed in a language older than human speech, a sound that made the mountains themselves seem to shudder. Then it began to dissolve, breaking apart into shadows and guilt and ancient hunger. I watched until it was gone completely, until the only sound was the crackling of flames from what was left of the cabin. Then I got to my feet and followed the pull I felt from Mitchell's cross. It led me to a small cave about half a mile away. Inside, I found them Dr. Hartwell, Maria, and Tyler alive, but unresponsive. Their eyes open, but seeing nothing. I carried them out one by one and made a shelter as best I could. By morning, the rescue team would come looking for me. We would all go home. As dawn broke over the mountains, the 3 researchers began to wake up. First Maria, then Tyler, finally Dr. Hartwell. They didn't remember much, just shadows and fear and a voice that knew their deepest regrets. What was that thing? Dr. Hartwell asked me, her voice shaky. Something that doesn't exist anymore. I told her. I didn't know how to explain what had happened, or if they would even believe me if I tried. But as we waited for rescue, I realized something had changed inside me. The guilt I'd carried since Grenada was still there, but it felt lighter somehow. Less like a weight, and more like a scary reminder of pain that had healed. I touched Mitchell's cross, still hanging around my neck. "Thank you," I whispered, not sure if I was talking to Mitchell or something else. The sun rose higher, melting the snow and warming our faces. In the distance, I heard the rescue helicopter approaching. We were going home. Some victories cost more than defeats, it's true. The research team would never be the same. Their minds had touched something ancient and wrong, something humans weren't meant to understand. And neither would I, but we were. Alive. And sometimes, that's enough. As the helicopter landed and the medical team rushed toward us, I looked back at the mountains one last time. For a moment, I thought I saw a shadow moving between the trees, something wolf-like, but not quite. A wolf then, it was gone, and there was only the mountain, ancient and silent, keeping its secrets for another day. My name is Thomas Whitfield. I've been a park ranger in Bridget Eaton National Forest for nearly 5 years now, though sometimes it feels like I've been wandering these mountains my whole life. The Wyoming Rockies tower over me like ancient gods as I make my way up the trail. Their snow-capped peaks cut into a sky so blue it hurts to look at for too long. I've seen a lot of beautiful places in my 38 years, but nothing compares to this. All around me, alpine meadows cover the valley floor like a colorful carpet. Red Indian paintbrush and purple lupin flowers dance in the mountain breeze. It's like nature is putting on a show just for me. I stop to catch my breath and watch a golden eagle circle overhead. The massive bird rides the warm air currents with such grace, barely flapping its wings. I check my altimeter, 8,200 feet, and still climbing. Bobby's weather station is another mile up. Crystal clear streams tumble down the granite mountainsides. Their sound bounces off the canyon walls like music that's been playing since before humans ever set foot here. I pause again when I spot a family of elk in a clearing ahead. The bull is massive, his antlers spreading wide like tree branches. He lifts his head to sniff the air, then looks right at me. For a moment, we just stare at each other, 2 creatures sharing the same space. Then something changes. The bull suddenly bolts, his eyes wide with fear. His antlers lay flat against his back as he crashes through the underbrush like something terrible is chasing him. The rest of his family follows, disappearing into the trees. That's when I notice the silence. The mountain has gone completely quiet. No birds singing, no insects buzzing, not even the whisper of wind through the pine trees. Just ... nothing. I look up to see dark clouds gathering out of nowhere. The sunny afternoon suddenly feels like evening, the light turning gray and cold. It doesn't make sense. The weather report promised clear skies all week. I pull out my satellite phone to call base, but the screen just shows static. No signal, which is weird at this altitude, where reception is usually perfect. The screen flickers with strange patterns I've never seen before. As I put the phone away, something catches my eye. On a nearby boulder, there are ancient drawings carved by Native Americans hundreds of years ago. I've passed this rock dozens of times, but today the images seem different, almost like they're moving, shifting before my eyes. I can't read them, but somehow I feel their warning deep in my gut. Something is very wrong on this mountain, and I'm heading straight toward it. I wasn't always a park ranger. For most of my life, I was a hunter, and not just any hunter. I was the kind who traveled the world looking for the biggest trophies. My house back in Montana used to have 2 big gun safes filled with rifles. Each one had memories of hunts across 6 different continents. I'd killed everything from huge Cape buffalo in Africa to massive Kodiak bears in Alaska. The knife hanging on my belt has seen things most people couldn't stomach. It saved my life once when a wounded leopard in Kenya came at me. I can still remember the look in that cat's eyes as it died. Something broke inside me that day, but I kept hunting anyway. It wasn't until 3 years ago that everything changed. I was tracking a grizzly up in Montana. When I finally got my shot and took it, I felt that old familiar rush. But when I found her body, I discovered she had been pregnant. Following her blood trail led me to a den with 2 tiny cubs inside. They were too young to survive on their own. I stayed with those cubs for 3 days, trying to keep them alive while I called for help. But it was too late. They died anyway, and I watched it happen, knowing it was all my fault. That guilt eats away at me every day. I see their faces in my dreams. The man who once proudly posed next to dead elephants now can't sleep through the night. My wife couldn't handle the change. In me, she took our house, our cars, and whatever respect I had left in the hunting community. All I had left were my demons and this government job as a park ranger. It doesn't pay much in money, but it offers something more important, a chance to make things right. I touched the small silver cross hanging around my neck. Father Morrison gave it to me after I confessed everything. It feels heavier with each passing day, weighed down by all the lives I've taken just for fun. Right now, my job is to find Bobby Chen. He's the weather station technician who's been missing for 3 days. His last radio call cut off in the middle of a sentence during what should have been a normal weather report. The search team couldn't get up here because of the strange storms, so they sent me instead. I pulled Bobby's photograph from my pocket. He's just a kid, really, fresh out of school. His smiling face reminds me of the son I never had. Looking at his picture makes me more determined to find him. The Winchester rifle on my back feels both familiar and strange. Unlike my hunting days, I've never fired this one at a living thing. Its bullets are special. I melted down my old hunting trophies and cast them myself. It seemed fitting somehow. As I climb higher toward the weather station, I can't shake the feeling that I'm walking straight into something terrible. But that's my problem. I've always needed to face my demons head on. Only by confronting the beast can I ever find forgiveness. The trail ahead grows steeper, and the strange dark clouds seem to follow me like they have a mind of their own. I crest the ridge and stop dead in my tracks. The weather station comes into view, and my heart sinks. It's completely destroyed. The small metal building looks like it was hit by a tornado. Equipment is scattered everywhere across the clearing, tossed around like toys. The satellite dish that should be on the roof lies bent and twisted nearly 100 yards away. Bobby, I call out, my voice sounding small against the vast silence of the mountain. Nothing answers but the wind. I approach carefully, my ranger training kicking in. Look for signs, follow the evidence. Don't jump to conclusions. But what I'm seeing doesn't make any sense. The door to the station hangs from one hinge, swinging gently. I push it open and peer inside. Bobby's coffee mug sits on the small table, and when I touch it, I pull my hand back in surprise. It's still warm. How can that be after 3 days? His breakfast is half-eaten toast with jam and some scrambled eggs now attracting flies. It looks like he just got up from the table a minute ago and walked away. That's when I notice the walls. Deep scratches run from floor to ceiling, gouging into the metal like it was paper. I run my finger along one of the marks. It's deep enough that my entire finger fits inside. Whatever made these wasn't playing around. The smell hits me next, wild and heavy, like the big cat house at the zoo, but mixed with something else. Something older and unwashed. The hair on the back of my neck stands up. In all my years hunting predators, I've never smelled anything quite like this. Outside, I circle the building slowly, searching for tracks. I find them almost immediately, paw prints in the soft earth. Big ones. At first, they look like they might belong to a wolf or maybe a large dog. But as I follow them around the station, something strange happens. With each circuit, the prints change, becoming more human. Inside again, I check the expensive weather equipment. Computers, barometers, wind gauges, all tossed aside, but untouched otherwise. Yet Bobby's personal things, his backpack, his clothes, his books have been carefully arranged in strange patterns on the floor, like someone was studying them, or like someone was sending a message. A small voice recorder sits on the desk, its red light blinking. I press play, and Bobby's voice fills the silent room. "It's watching me," he whispers, fear making his voice shake. "It's watching me, it's watching me." The message loops over and over, and I quickly turn it off, my hands trembling slightly. I step outside again, trying to clear my head. That's when I spot the blood. just a few drops at first, leading away from the station toward the East Ridge. I follow the trail, which gets heavier as I go. It leads straight to a cave opening I'd never noticed before, despite knowing these mountains like the back of my hand. The entrance to the cave is decorated with bones, small animal bones, arranged in perfect spirals and shapes that make my eyes hurt if I look at them too long. Carved into the stone around the opening are warnings in a Native American language. I can't read, but somehow I understand their message. Stay away. I glance back the way I came, and my blood runs cold. My own footprints in the dirt are being covered, one, by fresh paw prints that appear from nowhere, as if something is following exactly in my path, step by step, getting closer with each moment. Whatever happened to Bobby, the answer is in that cave. I take a deep breath, switch on my flashlight, and step into the darkness. The cave air is cold and damp against my face as I move deeper inside. My flashlight beam cuts through the darkness, bouncing off wet stone walls that glisten like black glass. Each step I take echoes loudly, announcing my presence to whatever might be waiting ahead. Bobby, I call out again, my voice sounding strange in the confined space. Bobby, it's Ranger Whitfield. I'm here to help. The only answer is the steady drip of water from somewhere deeper in the cave. I follow the blood trail, which is now more like a streak along the ground. The cave narrows in places, forcing me to turn sideways to squeeze through. Just as I'm about to enter a larger chamber, I freeze. Something moves in the shadows ahead. My light catches a flash of fur, then nothing. Who's there? I call, my hand moving to the rifle on my back. The Winchester feels reassuring in my grip as I bring it forward, though I keep my finger off the trigger. A low growl fills the chamber, coming from everywhere and nowhere at once. I sweep my light back and forth, trying to find its source, and then I see it. The creature steps into my light beam without fear. The locals call it the Shunkawarakana beast from tribal legends, but this is no legend. Standing before me, it's as real as the stone beneath my feet. It's roughly the size of a wolf, but built differently. Its back slopes downward like a hyena's, giving it a strange, uneven look. Its coat shifts in my flashlight beam, sometimes appearing brown, sometimes black, sometimes a deep red that reminds me of dried blood. But it's the eyes that freeze me in place. They're not animal eyes. There's intelligence, they're cold, calculating intelligence that watches me with what can only be described as hatred. Worse still, I recognize that look. It's the same expression I'd seen in my own mirror after particularly successful hunts. The look of a predator assessing its prey. The creature circles me slowly, testing, watching. I track it with my rifle, but something tells me shooting would be a mistake. It moves with the confidence of something that has nothing to fear. What do you want? I whisper, not really expecting an answer. The beast stops moving. For a terrible moment, it just stares at me. Then, faster than I can blink, it lunges. I squeeze the trigger without thinking. The rifle's blast is deafening in the confined space of the cave. But when the echo fades and my eyes adjust from the muzzle flash, the creature is gone. Not running, not wounded, just gone, like it was never there. What the eye begin, but the words die in my throat as hot breath hits the back of my neck. I spin around to find the beast right behind me, its teeth bared in what almost looks like a smile. I never heard it move. It's impossible nothing can move that quietly or that fast. I stumble backward, raising my rifle again, but the creature is already gone, melting into the shadows. Its howl fills the cave, bouncing off the walls until it seems to come from everywhere at once. But this isn't like any animal sound I've ever heard. There are words hidden in that howl, names of animals, spoken in voices that sound like final breaths. With growing horror, I recognize them, the names of animals I've hunted and killed over the years. The shadows around me seem to bend and shift. I see shapes that can't be real, antlers growing from stone walls, eyes blinking from solid rock. I close my eyes tight, telling myself it's just tricks of the light, just my mind playing games. When I open them again, I'm surrounded by ghosts or spirits of every animal I've ever killed, standing in a circle around me. The elephant from Zimbabwe, the lion from Tanzania, the grizzly bear and her cubs, all staring with accusing eyes that reflect my own cruelty back at me. Not real, I mutter, shaking my head. This isn't real. A voice whispers from the darkness, so close it could be inside my own head. I know what you are, it says in a voice like gravel. I can smell the death on you. the pleasure you took in it. You're just like me. The last of my courage breaks. I turn and run deeper into the cave, away from the voice, away from the accusing eyes of my victims. But in the darkness ahead, something waits, something that knows all my deepest shames and fears, something that has been hunting me from the moment I set foot on this mountain. I run blindly through the twisting cave passages, my flashlight beam bouncing wildly off the walls. Behind me, I hear the creature's laughter, a terrible sound, part animal growl, part human amusement. It echoes from every direction, like the cave itself is laughing at me. My foot catches on a rock and I stumble, falling hard onto the cave floor. My flashlight rolls away, its beam pointing at the wall beside me. That's when I see them ancient drawings covering the stone surface. They show stick-figured humans with spears and bows facing a creature that looks exactly like the thing chasing me, the Shankar. The drawings tell a story of hunters becoming the hunted, of the beast taking revenge on those who killed for sport. Just like me, I grab my flashlight and push forward, finding myself in a large chamber deep in the heart of the mountain. There's nowhere else to go. The passage ends here. I'm cornered. No more running. Hunter, comes that gravelly voice from the shadows. I spin around, rifle raised, to see the creature sitting calmly at the entrance to the chamber. It makes no move to attack. It doesn't have to. We both know I have nowhere to go. What do you want from me? I ask, my voice shaking. The same thing you wanted from all those animals. It answers, the thrill of the hunt, the pleasure of the kill. As it speaks, the cave around me seems to change. Suddenly, I'm back in Africa, watching myself shoot an elephant. Then I'm in Alaska as I take down a bear. Scene after scene of my past hunts play out around me like I'm inside a movie of my worst moments. Stop it, I shout, closing my eyes. But the visions continue inside my head. You enjoyed it, the beast whispers, now somehow right beside me, though I never saw it move. Every kill, every trophy. You felt powerful. That's not who I am anymore, I say, but my voice lacks conviction even to my own ears. Isn't it? The creature circles me slowly. Then why are you here with a rifle in your hands? Old habits die hard, Hunter. I raise the Winchester, pointing it directly at the beast. I'm here for Bobby Chen. The creature stops moving. Its eyes, those terribly human eyes, look sad for a moment. I can offer you a choice, it says softly. Join me in the eternal hunt. Become like me, a guardian of these mountains, punishing those who kill for pleasure, or face the judgment of every life you've taken. My hands shake as I try to keep the rifle steady. The weight of my guilt makes it hard to even hold the weapon. I fire a shot, but my hands are trembling so badly that the bullet goes wide, sparking off the cave wall. The beast doesn't even flinch. Instead, it speaks again, but now in a voice I recognize Bobby's voice. You killed me just like all the others, it says in Bobby's youthful tones. Only this time you used teeth and claws instead of bullets. What? I whisper, lowering the rifle slightly. What are you talking about? Where's Bobby? The creature's form seems to shimmer, and for just a moment, I see Bobby's face superimposed over the beast's features. You still don't understand, it says, Bobby's voice mixing with the creature's growl. I am Bobby Chen, or what's left of him. The truth hits me like a physical blow. The creature hasn't killed Bobby. It is Bobby, somehow transformed by contact with whatever ancient power lives in this mountain. No, I say, backing away. That's not possible, isn't it? The beast. Bobby steps closer. You've felt it since you arrived. The mountain watches. It judges. It transforms. Those who respect nature, it protects. Those who abuse it. The creature lunges forward with impossible speed. I try to bring my rifle up, but I'm too slow. Its weight hits me like a truck, driving me backward. I feel claws dig into my chest, teeth snapping near my throat. I scream as we fall together, my voice echoing through the cave system. The rifle goes flying from my hands, clattering uselessly against the far wall. As darkness begins to close in around me, I see all their faces one last time, every animal I've ever killed, watching as the hunter finally becomes the hunted. And somewhere deep in my fading consciousness, I understand that this is justice. This is balance. This is how the circle closes. The last thing I feel is acceptance as the beast's jaws close around my throat. 3 weeks later, the search party finally made it up the mountain. The strange storms had stopped as suddenly as they had begun, leaving behind clear blue skies and no explanation for the unusual weather patterns. Ranger Sarah Collins led the team up the trail, following the last known coordinates of both Bobby Chen and Thomas Whitfield. The forest seemed peaceful now, filled with birdsong and the rustle of animals moving through the underbrush. "I don't understand it," she said to her partner as they approached the weather station. "Whitfield was one of our best rangers. He knew these mountains better than anyone." The weather station stood just as Whitfield had found it equipment. Scattered, door hanging from one hinge, strange claw marks scoring the walls, but there was no sign of Bobby Chen or Thomas Whitfield until they found the cave. The search team hesitated at the entrance, staring at the bone arrangements and ancient carvings that seemed to warn them away. But they had a job to do. Inside, they followed a trail of blood and disturbed earth until they reached the deepest chamber. What they found there made even the most experienced rangers step back in shock. Bobby Chen's body was positioned carefully. Among the petroglyphs, his arms and legs arranged to match the ancient drawings, as if he had always been part of the warning carved into the stone. His face was peaceful, showing no signs of violence or struggle. Of Thomas Whitfield, they found only scattered remains. His body had been carefully positioned, like a hunter's trophy, display arms spread wide, head tilted back, exactly the way Whitfield himself had once posed his kills for photographs. The Winchester rifle lay nearby, all its bullets spent. Strange marks surrounded the body, like huge paw prints that started animal-like, but gradually became more human with each step. The official report called it an animal attack, probably a grizzly bear that had dragged Chun's body into the cave. Whitfield had apparently tracked it there and died trying to recover his colleague's remains. The strange arrangement of the bodies was attributed to the bear's unusual behavior or possibly a cave collapse that had shifted things around. But the search team knew better. They had seen the way the shadows moved oddly in that cave. They had heard whispers that didn't come from human throats, and they had felt the watching presence that seemed to fill the mountain with ancient judgment. One by one, they left flowers at the cave entrance and whispered apologies to whatever might be listening. Then they sealed the entrance with rocks and dynamite, marking it on their maps as dangerous and unstable. But the locals know the truth. On cold nights when the moon is dark, they still hear a howl that's not quite wolf, not quite human, echoing from the mountain. They tell their children to respect the forest and take only what they need. They warn hunters not to kill for sport or trophies, because in Bridger-Teton National Forest, something is always watching. Something that remembers every life taken without respect or need. Something that waits for those who hunt for pleasure rather than purpose. Something that used to be a man named Thomas Whitfield.